I have a confession.
Tell me everything.
I am so excited to do the show today because we're going to be talking about Hamilton, the musical. And it's one of our favorite topics. If you listen to Alex and I off the show, we bring up Hamilton
all the time.
At least every conversation at least once.
It just always applies. Always.
Hamilton always applies. We have an entire episode where we talk about how Hamilton applies to your business, and it's about to apply to today's business conversation as well. So that's always exciting.
I mean, it really is the greatest American musical ever, period.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much. There's so much to learn from Hamilton, the deep because it's about the creation of a nation. It's about leadership. It's about creating something that out of nothing. Scrappiness,
relationships.
Yes. I mean, there's so much to be learned from Hamilton. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hi, I'm Sybil Solon. I'm an esthetician and spa owner.
And hi, I'm Alex Ellis. I'm a body nerd and wellness expert, and we are business besties.
And bosses. Running your own business, it's hard.
But we're terrible employees, so we're figuring it out.
Oh my God, we're figuring it out so hard right now. I've already figured it all out, but we promise to share everything we know about what it takes to make six figures and beyond.
And be brutally honest about what works and what totally sucks.
A bunch of it totally sucks. So let's get started.
So true. Every time. Welcome back to Skinfessional, my friend. On today's show, we are talking about creating the culture of your business by standing in your values.
And once again, all lessons are explained by Hamilton the musical.
Amen to that.
Yes.
This started from many places. You know, you just take inspiration.
So much conversation happened for this conversation.
I sent you that TikTok. I think she was complaining about her husband like not putting the dishes away or something, and like used Hamilton to explain it. It was a funny TikTok. I'm gonna go find it again. But I have this theory that a lot of people become entrepreneurs because they want to do business better than somebody else. That very few, and I'm sure there are people who have, wake up one morning and they're like, you know what? I really want to be the marketing department and the production department and the accounting department and do the work and feed you and do everything all myself 28 hours a day. You know, we just kind of stumble into it because we just want to do it better.
Well, I don't think anybody actually thinks about when they're going to business that that's actually what they're doing. They're like, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to keep all the money for myself.
Yes.
I'm going to make all the choices.
Yes.
That's what you think. You don't think about the fact that you have to get all the business licenses, that you have to keep up your inventory, you have to manage all the bookkeeping, you have to deal with marketing and social media. Oh my God, there's so much you do. You wear 900 hats.
Every day. I mean, there was a video someone posted on social media where they were going through all the hats you wear, and then like, hi, I'm craft services. Don't forget to eat. You got to stay fueled. And I was like, that's the hat I need to outsource because I have been seriously failing on that. But it's so true. But when it comes to, and this is something that, you know, you and I have been talking a lot about, and I know I have been really, you know, stepping into it over the last probably 2 years or so, is creating the culture of your business and really standing out as your business, right? That you are different from the person down the street, and this is why. And that's what we want to talk about today.
Absolutely. And owning it. And we've said this so many times, but owning that culture, owning the idea of this is who you are. I know who I am. I'm comfortable with who I am, even if maybe I'm not always comfortable. I am going to show to the universe that I am comfortable with who I am, and I'm standing for what I believe in.
I love that. I'm comfortable with who I am, even if I'm not always comfortable.
That's correct. But you're going to see a face of comfort, right? And it's okay. It's okay that we're not always comfortable in who we are. This is just reality. But you have to the more you stand in it and the more you believe in it, the more people gather around you who are the same as you. And then you become more comfortable because you find your tribe, you find your posse.
Yeah. Do you recall like a specific moment or turning point in your life as a business owner where you were just like, well, I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, I'm going to make sure that my values are known?
Yes. So when we first started doing our podcast, the very first episode we talked about was your brand and, the thing that are you your brand? And Alex, you said, you know what? You should just be who you are. And I was like, I can't do that. There's no way. And at that point, I'd already kind of been showing myself a little bit more to my clientele. But it used to be that I had Esthetician Sybil and you saw Esthetician Sybil, and that's all you saw. And then I realized as I kind of moved forward in my business and I kind of started catering myself to a new niche of clients that I didn't want to be Esthetician Sybil anymore. It was really hard to keep that facade all the time. And we're in a world of social media where people, although they pretend they want to see everything, they still want to see more about you. And they're okay with the maybe imperfections of your life. Makes you, would you say that's true? The imperfections make you more real?
Yeah.
And so Esthetician Sybil didn't have to be as real anymore. And so I could do things like swear. Oh my God, I could swear and it would be okay with some of my clients. And if you were not okay with swearing, you probably weren't going to be my client anymore.
That's such like an interesting, like a little super distinction, I was at physical therapy yesterday and I was telling the story of, all the, family stuff and caretaking I've been doing over the last year. And she just goes, that really fucking sucks. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And in that moment, I was just like, we are now bonded. Right. But you have to know like what client that's okay with and who it's not okay with.
Exactly. And so it became one of those turning points for me. And it was really doing this podcast that made me start feeling, you know what, I can put myself out there more and I can be more real with my clientele. And it's because of you, Alex, because you're just like, do it. Why don't you just put yourself out there more? And I was like, it's really uncomfortable. I've been Esthetician Sybil for over a decade.
Right.
But Esthetician Sybil was really tiring. And that is to say, if you're listening for the very first time, baby estheticians, I am not full on Sybil to any of my clients.
No. Me neither.
No, they probably could not handle full on Sybil.
No, yeah, you have like, the conversations you and I have and the shit we say to one another, even for this podcast, like we do show up and we are real, but like the pre-show is not this show at all. And like who I am, and I think this is too, like where what we're talking about today comes into play. Though I may appear outwardly as someone else, a little bit more polished, a little bit more put together, a little bit more, PC even, my values remain the same regardless of how I show up. That's like the underlying operating system that's always present. And that's super important to identify those pieces so that you know that and you're not feeling lost. And who is my professional self? Who is my corporate wellness self? Like that's something I'm thinking about, versus the person I'm with, over the weekend with my friends.
Absolutely. So we literally talked about 1 second before we went on and started recording. Alex was talking about how she would not do a video to troll her trolls on TikTok. And this is part of her culture. And I was like, I would troll my trolls. Like that is part of my culture. I would troll my trolls in a heartbeat because that is who I am. I'm a person who will go out, put in your face the fact that you are being a complete asshole. And I'll call you on it because I don't like bullies. And I'm gonna bully you right back, and that's who I am. And I don't care if that's ruling by fear. I don't care. Whereas Alex, her culture is, I want to make sure that everyone feels safe and can ask questions.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, again, like, what am I doing? I'm helping people with their bodies. I'm talking about anatomy. There's weird words, there's new stuff. And I want to create a culture of like learning and education, and everybody has to be a beginner, right? Everyone has to start somewhere. And to create this environment where you feel comfortable to ask what you might think is a stupid question. I don't think there's any stupid questions.
I don't think there are either.
Yeah. Then I don't feel like you can then be, I'm just thinking my parents always say, keep your head in the foxhole. If I had a teacher that really pissed me off. And so it was always like, stay under the radar. But I feel like if the person who, says some shit or says something that is triggering me, if I call them out, like I wouldn't want somebody else who like has a question, but doesn't really quite feel comfortable. Like I don't want to silence them just to like shut somebody else up.
Right. And for me, I look at that and I see a person who's a bully who's maybe stopping someone else from asking a question because they're a bully. It's all choices.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. And I think too, as like a leader, which we all are in our business, and I always try to take this like if we were in an actual classroom together, right? Which people have completely forgotten, especially with the pandemic. Social media makes it even worse. But I remember being in classrooms with people where people were being rude and disrespectful. And I've also been in the seat of the student when there's someone else doing that and you're waiting for the teacher to say something because you don't want to, or the leader or whoever, you don't want to have to be the person to stand up. Sorry, could you please just do something and handle this so I don't have to do it? Because I'm just here to like experience this, you know? And so I've had the times where I've had to been like, okay, we're done with that now and moving on and like call people out. But for me, again, this is the culture and it's maybe like a little bit different. It's done for the sake of the community, not just to like make that one person stay away. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just different, but these are things to be thinking about.
Right. And what we're saying, so I wanted to have this conversation because I want everyone to listen and hear that Alex and I do not always see eye to eye on things. And yet we see eye to eye on all the important things. Right. Which is why we're such good business besties, because when I do have a question, I can go to her and be like, you have a different opinion than me. And therefore your opinion is so valid. It's when we keep people who say yes to us all the time, they're like the yes men in our lives. They're not actually helping us. They're not creating that culture for us because they're like, I believe the exact same things you believe in every single way. We need those people in our lives to kind of push our boundaries a little bit, who think a little bit different than we do, but at their core believe the same things we do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I was thinking too, for me, the moment where I was just like, I need to let my values be known was last summer. And after George Floyd was murdered and I started posting stuff on social media and then people were DMing me and arguing with me, unfollowing me in like droves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm not interested in creating a culture or an environment or a space where racists feel comfortable. And that really like ripped the Band-Aid off from quickly in a way where I then felt more comfortable sharing like what I actually believe in on my platforms, which as like a thin privileged white woman in America, I'm just like, bitch, what were you afraid of like to begin with? But like whatever. And then I recently got some DMs too from someone who was just like, hey, thanks for talking about this. It's so refreshing to see somebody who will actually like put out their opinion. And it's like, it's not just like, it allows you to be a fully formed human. It allows your business to like be about something that's not just selling some product.
Right. I want to do a shout out to Jenna Warner, who is the person who did our social media talk at that time. And at the time, she was my social media person. And she was the person who's like, Sybil, your posts that you want to do about like the George Floyd stuff and healthy at every size, she goes, do them. It's okay. Because I was really afraid. I was like, this is really making me uncomfortable. And she's like, that's where you should be. If it doesn't make you uncomfortable, sometimes you're not doing the right thing for your business. You have to stand up for what you believe in. And she's like, really know that whatever you put out there, she goes, you're going to get haters and that's okay. But you're going to find people who believe in you and trust you more because you said what you believe in and you had a value system. And you weren't just like, I support everyone.
Yeah.
Which, nobody wants anybody who just pretends to support everyone because that's a lie.
Yeah. Well, there's also, we see this in bigger companies too, where they say like, we're all about this. And then they're not actually doing anything to back it up.
Right.
So you have to not just talk the talk, but like walk the walk and like be about that. And so making your values known, like this is not a tomorrow you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, here's what I stand for. And it's going to be like all roses and, sugar plum fairies from there. It's messy. It's a growth process, right? I think too of things that I believe now. And then, you could scroll back at a time machine, ask, 10 years ago me, and it would be, I was a different person and we all are different people. Yeah. And I think too, like putting your values forward, even like just opens up the door for allowing change to be a thing too.
Yeah.
You know, that you're not rigid in what you believe.
Absolutely. And it's okay if you have to go back and say, you know what, I used to say this, but I say this now. That I'm a human. I'm okay.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, so Hamilton would say, when you got skin in the game, you stay in the game. But if you don't get a win unless you play in the game. And this is how it is. You have to have something to stand for, which means you have to know who you are at this moment. And for me, I think for many skincare providers, it means that you have to have some kind of philosophy on what you're doing in your business, as well as what you're doing for people's skin. So I know for me, I've been very strong in the belief that I don't use glycolics. I don't do acids. I don't believe in BPO. And I have made huge enemies in my field because of this over the years. Huge enemies.
They hate you because you won't use an acid?
That I speak poorly of acids. I'm like, you're making huge mistakes. That I will be like, glycolic is the devil. Somebody will say glycolic and I immediately say glycolic is the devil. Like, it just happens. I'm dealing with a company right now where they're just like, we need you to strip that out of your videos if we're going to work with you. And I had to really sit down and think to myself, did I want to work with a company who was telling me that I had to essentially, you know, not talk about my hatred of glycolic? And I was like, you know what? I cannot discuss it. But if they told me that I wasn't allowed to answer questions like that, I would be like, no, I have to be able to answer questions appropriately to me. And it was something we talked about. I'm like, well, somebody asked me directly about my belief on glycolic. I'm going to say that I think it's the devil and it's wrong. And here are the studies. You know, so you have to have a line and you have to know where your line is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so, I mean, we were talking about this too, like, you know, mission statements and, you know, elevator pitches. And if you can't, I mean, it's also, if you can't boil down what you do into a concise statement, like what do you do?
Right. Like, the problem is you don't know you yet. And it's okay if you don't. We've all been there. I mean, Alex, how long did it take you to get to the clarity that you currently have on your business pitch?
I mean, 7+ years. And then even then, like the first versions of it were not what it is now.
Absolutely. I mean, it wasn't until last year that I was getting really clear on what I wanted my messaging to be. And you can say, well, I know what it is. But if you can't tell others what it is, then it doesn't really mean much, because you can't talk about it clearly. You know, people are like, I believe in things that are natural and I'm holistic. And what the F does that mean? Right? These are just words.
Yeah. Shoot, I wish I had it closer. There's a book behind me, The 3-Word Rebellion by Dr. Michelle Mazur.
Yeah, such a good one.
We'll link to that. And that's a really great book to answer these questions for yourself of like, what do I stand for? Like, what breaks my heart? What pisses me off? Like, what am I here to change? And so if you're like, okay, what is your philosophy, your elevator pitch?
My philosophy, so my elevator pitch is, I always tell people I change people's lives with my hands. And usually people are like, oh, tell me more about that. Like, what exactly? And I'm like, I'm a licensed esthetician, and I believe that skin can be changed from the inside out, and that the skin is the largest organ of the body, and we should treat it as an entire organ. And people are like, okay. And then usually they're like, what is an esthetician? But I really feel that leaving the esthetician in is important. You know, I've thought about stripping it out, but it's complicated.
Okay, I'm going to sidebar.
Yeah.
Is an esthetician different from a facialist, or is that just like people don't know the words?
So facialist, I mean, you could say a facialist, but facialists only work on the face, right? Right. An esthetician works on all of the skin, the whole body.
So somebody could be like a facialist.
The whole epidermis. There are no such thing as actually a facialist isn't actually a thing.
Okay, so it's just like someone calling what an esthetician does because they probably can't pronounce esthetician.
Or they're like, I don't know what the hell does an esthetician do? They get facials. They're a facialist.
Right.
Right? Like, they're a hairdresser because they're not a cosmetologist.
I don't even know the difference.
So cosmetologist there are no such thing as hairdressers. Hairdresser is somebody who's like, I am a cosmetologist and I do hair. But a cosmetologist does hair, nails, and technically facials.
What?
They have a degree to do all of it.
Oh my God. I had no idea.
I know. Everybody out here is listening being like, I know. And then there's barbers who only do like barbering haircuts. And then there's nail technicians which only do nails. Nails.
Oh God. Oh God.
It's a very, see, our industry is very complicated. It's a very complicated industry that's like all shrouded in darkness.
So here's my philosophy. So those of you who've been listening for a while, you know what I do. I believe that everyone deserves to enjoy life without pain. And the way I get there is by helping you to develop a wellness workout plan so you know exactly what your body needs to get stronger and more flexible. And when you like take a look at my business and the different avenues, like every single one of them serves that purpose. And that clarity, not just for myself, but that clarity also helps every customer coming in the door to also be clear about what I do and how I get there and how they can engage with me as well. So being clear about your values from like literally down to what you believe, in addition to where you stand on things, that clarity helps your clients to also be clear about how they can engage with your brand.
So good. And one thing I'm going to say for everybody that this is often something that takes a while to think about. Yes. You have to know who you are. You have to know where you're going. You have to know what you plan to do with yourself and your business. You have to know what you believe in. And then you have to really sit down and like refine it, hone it as much as you can, and get every word matters.
I'm going to push back on that because the perfectionist in me is just like, oh my God, it's never going to be good enough. I'm never going to put it out. So yes, but like put it out, start talking about it, start saying it. The way I was able to really get the most clarity with this is that I've done 134 episodes of the Body Nerd Show where I talk about it all the fucking time. Yes. I've done live streams, I've written social posts, and each time someone comes with a question or I see how someone's engaging with me, or a client comes through who's like not really the right fit. It's like, okay, well, what were they missing and who would be a better fit and how do I communicate that to them? So yes, you need to continue to work on it. This is like an ever evolving process that's never ever done.
Yes.
But for the love of all things holy, do not sit down and try to get it right the first time because it's never going to be right.
Oh, like it's absolutely never going to get it right. I mean, I've probably drafted mine, I don't know, so many times. And it's still work. It's still always a work. I would say it's always a work in progress. Yeah. Alex, is yours still a work in progress?
Always.
Yeah. Because at some point you'll be like, you know what? I didn't realize this about what I'm doing. Or I'm now honing this a little bit more. I'm niching even harder, or I'm opening it and moving sideways because you're allowed to evolve and grow. But understanding what it is so incredibly important. And trying to keep it less, you need to talk about it, but try not, I'm going to say this and please don't take it wrong. Try not to babble about it. When I talk to estheticians, it's so hard. People just babble and I'm like, I need you to stop now. Just, like know at least a couple of sentences of what you do and you believe in and just stick to them, right? Stand for it and stick to it and know that you can change it, but like stick to those.
Yeah. Well, also, so interesting. I'm thinking too. So in my business, I oftentimes, before I book private clients, I'll get on a phone with them and like talk to them before I decide that I want to work with you for like 3 months, 3 months straight. And there was a while where people would get on the phone. They like weren't the right person. Yeah. Right? And then I'm like, okay, so what do I believe in? What do I stand for? And then how can I communicate that better? So this also is a conversation about marketing, what we're talking about, and how you put yourself forward and how you can be more clear so that every person who walks in the door is like, yep, you're the one. And by the way, did you listen to that true crime podcast? And I'm like, oh my God, are you my bestie? Where have you been? And like, I'm not talking, I mean, I do talk about that stuff somewhat, but your vibe attracts your tribe. Like that's vomit inducing, but like that's literally what happens. You put it out there. You also like, you really, really need to stop trying to please everybody because I promise you it's not possible. There will always be people who said that was too mean or that was too dumb or how could you say that? So like stop trying to please people, say what you want to say, and then just keep refining it.
Yes, absolutely. And the only thing I'm going to add to that, Alex, because that was so incredibly succinctly said, is that when you decide who you are and you put it out there, you will feel so much better. You don't think it. You think you think that you're gonna get all sweaty thinking about it. You're like, oh Jesus, I'm so scared.
I'm excluding people.
But as you do it, you will start to feel so much better because it just becomes easier over and over again as you do it. Just like anything else, it just becomes easier. And then you feel better about saying what you believe and having other people come into your life who are like, I agree with you and I like you for who you are.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes people come in and they disagree with you and you're like, you know what? You're
That's
right.
okay.
I never thought of it that way. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's okay. And bye.
Yeah. I mean, like, here's like a value point too. I've just shared with you. I believe that everyone deserves to enjoy life without pain. I have people who come in my comments pretty frequently who are struggling with chronic pain and are almost like offended by what I believe. And so I'm always like, am I, and this is sort of, when you get called out, right? We talked about this.
Right.
Am I wrong? Could I have said that like more inclusively? Because I don't want to exclude people. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I do believe that you can change the unchangeable. And if you're not on board with that value, I can't bring you on board.
Right.
And there's always going to be that mismatch. That's not to say that I'm not doing all I can and still thinking about how to be more inclusive. But if you aren't on board with my mission, you're never going to get what I do. Sort of like with you as well, right? When people are like, oh, but I need that super duper crazy peel. Can you just peel all my skin off and like put a new face on? And you're like, we're never going to match.
Right. My answer to you when people are like, but I think I need a peel. I'm like, well, I always ask the question, why do you think that? And then as we talk, I'm like, you know what? I have somebody who's better for you, who's better suited to you than me. And that is another reason why you keep people in your network who are not like you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're not the right fit for you, and that's okay. And we've talked about this so many times, but that's okay. The only way people are going to know that is that if you put that out to the universe, you let everyone know, this is what I believe is, here's my flag in the sand. And this is what I stand for. And you do it for your business and, what you feel comfortable sharing in your personal life. You don't have to share everything. It's okay. Like we keep a bunch of stuff private, but you share enough of yourself that people understand who you are and about the big things that might matter to you.
Yeah. It's like someone can know your values without knowing, the last fight you had with your partner and like what you had for breakfast. Like no one needs to know.
So important.
Yeah.
Looking and making sure we talked about all the things. I think we did.
I think we did. And I really hope that this conversation empowers you to care a little bit less about the people who aren't on board with your mission statement and care more about the people who are with you because the ones whose lives you can change, like they are who matters, not the ones who are like, what are your sources? Like, fuck those people.
The what are your sources people are the best people.
But Google's free, bro. Google's free.
It's 100% true. All right, Alex, bring us home.
So we want to hear from you. Okay, about your Google experience. No, just kidding. About your values. Maybe like what was that moment for you, that pivotal moment that made you realize like, I've been playing it small and I want to be big and bold and like share my values so that I can plant my flag for how I'm unique in the world.
Or tag us in one of those posts. Go ahead and tag us, man. I'd love to hear. I'd love to see where your flag is.
Yes. So many, many choices. You can email us, skinfessionalpod@gmail.com. It's spelled exactly like this show. Just look at your device that you're watching this on or listening to this on, and then take that word, Skinfessional, and put pod, P-O-D at the end, at gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram @Skinfessional. You can find Sybil at Skin Fitness Expert. You can find me at Hala Formala. Good luck spelling that one. I'm not going to spell it for you. Or you can call the Skinfessional box. What's that number?
The number is 818-473-5277. And for Lydia, who called last week, to just say that she is really enjoying listening to these while she's up at 2 o'clock in the morning, unable to sleep because she is getting her taxes ready. We hear you.
Oh, Lydia, I feel your pain. I'm about to go do some QuickBooks accounting. You got it, girl. You got it. And even if you don't got it, you're still awesome. Oh, dear.
Yeah. By the way, I finally this year, and I talked about it before, got somebody to start doing my bookkeeping. Best choice I ever made.
Ooh, actually, you know what? You just reminded me. I got to go make my quarterly tax payment.
Yeah, we all have to do that. Quarterlies, it's due. Boom, boom, boom. All right, guys. So until next week,
keep your secrets and your taxes to yourself.
Unless you're telling us.
Okay, bye.
Bye.